My parents sat in the courtroom, rolling their eyes and laughing while their lawyer painted me as a heartless son who abandoned his starving parents. They were suing me for $2 million, claiming they had to sell family heirlooms just to buy food. They thought I was an easy target. They had no idea that I wasn't just sitting there in silence, I was waiting. In my hand, I held a folder with forensic proof that they had $4.2 million hidden in offshore accounts, and a secret audio recording of them admitting to stealing my inheritance. Watch what happened when the judge finally hit play. The sound of my mother scoffing echoed through the quiet courtroom, loud enough for the stenographer to pause and look up over her glasses. It was a dismissive, wet sound, the kind of noise a teenager makes when asked to clean their room, not the sound a 60-year-old woman should make while suing her own son for $2 million. My father, sitting next to her in a suit that cost more than my first car, rolled his eyes so hard I thought he might strain a muscle. They looked at me from the plaintiff's table with a mixture of boredom and supreme confidence, as if this trial were just a tedious formality before they collected their winnings. My name is Daniel Reed, and I was being sued by my parents, Eleanor and Frank Reed, under a rare civil statute regarding parental support and implied contract. Essentially, they were claiming that my success, my tech startup, my house, my entire financial portfolio was the direct result of their sacrificial investment in my childhood, and that I had verbally promised to take care of them in their golden years. They were asking for a retroactive payment of $2 million and a monthly stipend of $10,000. The narrative they had spun for the court was a masterpiece of fiction. For the last 3 hours, their lawyer, a slick man with a shiny tie named Mr. Sterling, had painted a picture of a loving, doting couple who had starved themselves to put me through private schools, who had nurtured my genius, and who were now being discarded by an ungrateful, cold-hearted son who had forgotten where he came from. Eleanor sat there dabbing her dry eyes with a handkerchief, looking frail and sympathetic. Frank looked stoic, the picture of a hard-working father betrayed by his progeny. It was a fantastic performance. If I hadn't lived the reality, I might have believed them myself. The reality, of course, was vastly different. I hadn't seen my parents in 8 years. The last time I saw them was the day I turned 18, when Frank handed me a black garbage bag filled with my clothes and told me to get out because they were done raising me. They hadn't paid for private school. I went to public school and worked nights as a janitor to save for community college. They hadn't nurtured my genius. They had mocked my interest in computers, calling me a nerd and a waste of space. But the most galling part of their lawsuit was the claim that they were destitute. In their filing, they claimed they had zero savings, looming medical bills, and were at risk of homelessness. They claimed my abandonment had caused them severe emotional and financial distress. Mr. Sterling was wrapping up his opening arguments. "Ladies and gentlemen of the court," he said, his voice trembling with manufactured emotion. "Daniel Reed sits here today in a $3,000 suit, a multi-millionaire at 28, while the parents who gave him life, the parents who sacrificed their own dreams for his, are struggling to put food on the table. It is not just a legal obligation but a moral one. We have witnessed testimony stating that Daniel promised on multiple occasions to buy his parents a house and fund their retirement. We are simply asking that he honor that promise." I sat stoically next to my lawyer, Sarah, a sharp-eyed woman who had advised me to remain completely emotionless. "Do not react," she had told me. "Let them perform. Let them get comfortable." Frank looked at me and smirked. It was a tiny, imperceptible movement of his mouth, but I saw it. It was the same look he used to give me right before he locked me in the basement for being too loud. It was a look that said, "I own you." When it was time for my mother to testify, she took the stand with the grace of a seasoned actress. She talked about how she used to help me with my homework every night. She was always at the bar. She talked about how they bought me my first computer. I bought it with lawn mowing money. She talked about how I had cried in her arms before leaving for college, promising to take care of her. I left while they were sleeping so they wouldn't stop me. And you're struggling now, Mrs. Reed? Mr. Sterling asked gently. Oh, yes, she whispered, her voice cracking. We can barely afford our heating bill. We've had to sell off family heirlooms just to buy groceries. It breaks my heart that Daniel won't help us. We love him so much. We just want to survive. From the bench, Judge Harrison looked down at her with a sympathetic expression. He was an older man, clearly from a generation that valued family loyalty. I could see he was buying it. He looked from my weeping mother to me, his expression hardening. I could see the judgment in his eyes. He saw a spoiled tech brat and a suffering mother. My parents saw it too. As my mother stepped down from the witness stand and walked back to her table, she caught my eye. She didn't look sad anymore. She looked triumphant. She sat down, smoothed her skirt, and then, deliberately, she rolled her eyes at me again, leaning over to whisper something to my father that made him chuckle. They thought it was over. They thought they had won. Sarah, my lawyer, stood up. Her chair scraped against the floor, the only sound in the room. Your Honor, she said, her voice calm and steady. The defense has only one piece of evidence to present today. We are not calling witnesses. We are not calling character references. We simply wish to submit a single folder of documents and a digital drive into evidence. We call it Exhibit A. Mr. Sterling scoffed loudly. One folder? That's your defense against a lifetime of abandonment. My father snickered. I saw him mouth the word pathetic to my mother. They were relaxed now, leaning back in their chairs, fully confident that I had nothing. After all, how do you prove you didn't say something 10 years ago? It was their word against mine, and they were selling the story better. Judge Harrison looked bored. Very well, Counselor. Bring it forward. But I hope this is substantial. Based on the testimony I've heard so far, your client has a steep hill to climb. Sarah walked up to the bench. She didn't hand the folder to the clerk. She handed it directly to the judge, as per the pre-trial agreement for sensitive financial discovery. This folder contains a comprehensive financial forensic audit of the plaintiffs, Robert and Eleanor Reed, dating back 10 years, Sarah said. It also contains audio recordings recovered from a cloud server that Daniel Reed set up in his childhood, a home security system he installed for them when he was 16, which they apparently forgot about. My parents stopped smiling. My father sat up straighter. My mother's hand went to her throat. The judge opened the folder. The room was deadly silent. I watched Judge Harrison's face. At first, he looked indifferent. He flipped the first page. Then his eyebrows shot up. He flipped the next page. Faster this time. He adjusted his glasses. He leaned in closer to the documents, his eyes scanning the columns of numbers. Then he stopped. He looked up from the papers, but he didn't look at me. He looked at my parents. The sympathy that had been in his eyes moments ago was gone, replaced by a look of cold, hard shock. Mr. and Mrs. Reed, the judge said, his voice low and dangerous. You just testified under oath that you were destitute. You stated you are selling heirlooms for groceries. Yes, Your Honor, my mother said, though her voice was trembling now. The judge held up a piece of paper from the folder. Then why does this bank statement from the Cayman Islands show a balance of $4.2 million in an account under your names? And why does this deed show that you purchased a vacation home in Cabo San Lucas 3 weeks ago for cash? My mother gasped. The color drained from my father's face so fast he looked like a corpse. Mr. Sterling, their lawyer, stood up, looking confused. Your Honor, I was not aware... Sit down, counsel. The judge barked. He turned his gaze back to my parents. And according to these transcripts, you didn't fund your son's education. You stole from him? The judge picked up a USB drive from the folder. I think we need to hear these recordings immediately. My parents weren't rolling their eyes anymore. They looked like they wanted to vanish into the floor. Mr. Sterling looked at his clients with a mixture of horror and professional betrayal. He was a shark, certainly, but he wasn't stupid. He knew that suborning perjury, knowingly allowing clients to lie under oath, could cost him his license. He immediately started packing his briefcase. Your Honor, Sterling stammered, sweat beading on his forehead. I request a recess. I need to confer with my clients regarding these ... revelations. I assure the court I had no knowledge of offshore accounts or real estate holdings. Sit down, Mr. Sterling, Judge Harrison ordered, his voice brooking no argument. We are past the point of recesses. We are now in the territory of criminal fraud. Bailiff, play the audio. My mother grabbed my father's arm, her fingernails digging into his expensive suit jacket. Stop it, she hissed at the judge. You can't play that. That's private. It was admissible evidence, Mrs. Reed, the judge said coldly. And considering you sued your son for abandonment, you opened the door to examining the history of that relationship. Play it. The bailiff clicked a button on his laptop, and the speakers in the courtroom crackled to life. The sound was slightly grainy, but unmistakable. It was the kitchen of my childhood home. I knew the acoustics perfectly. The first voice was my father's, from 12 years ago. The kid thinks he got a full scholarship. Frank's voice sneered from the speakers. He doesn't know about the check his grandmother left him. Then my mother's voice, younger but just as sharp. $50,000. That old bat left him 50 grand for college. Can you believe it? Well, he's not seeing a dime of it. Frank laughed on the recording. I forged his signature on the transfer yesterday. It's in our account now. Let him think he's working his way through school. Builds character. Besides, we need that boat. In the courtroom, a collective gasp went through the gallery. My mother put her hands over her face. My father stared at the table, his jaw working furiously. I looked at them, feeling a cold satisfaction. I had found that recording years ago on the old backup server ID hidden in the vents, but I had never used it. I saved it for a moment exactly like this. But the judge wasn't done. He signaled for the next track. This one was much clearer, recorded only 3 months ago. It was a phone call I had intercepted because my father was still using the same cloud account password I set up for him in 2010. We have to time the lawsuit right, my father's voice said. Daniel just closed his Series B funding. He's flush with cash. But what if he fights it? My mother asked worriedly. What if he proves we have money? He won't look, Frank said confidently. He's too busy being a big-shot CEO. He'll settle. These tech guys always settle to avoid bad PR. We go in crying poverty. Say we're sick. Say he abandoned us. The court loves a sad old couple. We'll ask for $2 million. He'll cut a check for 500 grand just to make us go away. It's free money, Elle. Just like the college fund. The recording ended with the sound of them clinking glasses. The silence that followed was absolute. It was heavy, suffocating, and electric. Judge Harrison took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. When he looked up, his face was red with suppressed rage. In my 20 years on the bench, he said quietly, leaning over the dais, I have seen families torn apart by tragedy, by addiction, by poverty. But I have never ever seen a case of such calculated, malicious greed. He turned to Mr. Sterling. Counselor, you are dismissed. Your clients do not need a civil attorney anymore. They need criminal defense lawyers. My father stood up, knocking his chair over. Now wait a minute. You can't talk to us like that. We are the victims here. That recording it's out of context. Sit down. The bailiff barked, stepping forward with his hand on his belt. Judge Harrison slammed his gavel. The sound was like a gunshot. Case dismissed with prejudice, the judge roared. But I am not done. Mr. and Mrs. Reed, I am holding you in direct contempt of court for perjury. You lied about your assets, you lied about your financial status, and you filed a frivolous lawsuit for the sole purpose of extortion. He turned to the bailiff. Take them into custody. I am also referring this matter to the district attorney's office. I want charges filed for fraud, perjury, and based on that first recording, theft and forgery regarding the defendant's inheritance. My mother screamed. It wasn't a fake scream this time. It was a raw, terrified shriek as the bailiff moved behind her and pulled her arms back. No, you can't. Daniel, tell them. She looked at me, her eyes wide and wet, panic destroying the mask she had worn for decades. Daniel, baby, please. We're your parents. You can't let them take us to jail. We only did it because we missed you. We just wanted your attention. I stood up slowly. I buttoned my jacket. I looked at the woman who had spent my college fund on a boat. The woman who had planned to extort me, because she thought I was weak. You got my attention, Mum, I said calmly. Frank was struggling as the bailiff cuffed him. You ungrateful brat. After everything we did for you. I made you. You made me leave, I corrected him. And now, you've made your own bed. They were dragged out of the courtroom, kicking and screaming, creating a scene far more dramatic than the one they had rehearsed. The doors slammed shut behind them, cutting off my father's cursing. The courtroom was quiet again. Mr. Sterling was hurriedly shoving papers into his bag, refusing to make eye contact with anyone. Judge Harrison looked at me. Mr. Reed, I apologize that the court's time was wasted on this farce. And I apologize that you had to endure it. You are free to go. Thank you, Your Honor, I said. I walked out of the courthouse and into the bright afternoon sun. The air tasted different, cleaner, lighter. For 8 years, I had carried a small, nagging weight in the back of my mind. A fear that somehow they still had power over me. That somehow they could still reach out and pull me back into their misery. That weight was gone. They had rolled their eyes at me, thinking I was the same helpless kid they kicked out. They didn't realize that while they were spending their stolen money, I was keeping receipts. I pulled out my phone and called my assistant. Cancel my afternoon meetings, I said. Why? Are you okay, Daniel? Did the trial go badly? I smiled, watching a police van pull away from the side of the courthouse, carrying 2 new passengers. No, I said. The trial went perfectly. I'm taking the rest of the day off. I'm going to go visit my grandmother's grave. I have to tell her I finally got her money back. If you enjoyed seeing these greedy parents get exactly what they deserved, hit that like button. And I have a question for you in the comments. If you found out your parents stole your college fund, would you press charges like Daniel, or just walk away? Let me know your thoughts below. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of justice served.